Hello, welcome to the All Muscle Air Moment. Aaron Spears.
And I'm Brad Hathcock. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
The
How are you?
post debate world, buddy.
Yeah, I think we did a bad job analyzing just how poorly Biden did because I, I thought at the end it was like kind of even, and then I guess I was listening to the ideas more than I was the performance
Here's
because
the thing: is I think that we kind of see it in, and you're right. I also was listening more for the ideas than the performance as a whole. But I think that it's just like we see clips of Biden, right? We don't see full on like debates and things like that. Like we don't typically watch him for 90 minutes. Um, And so I think that maybe we were just thrown off by the fact that we actually got to see him over a lengthier period of time. That does not make it any better.
no, I think in fact, we were probably better at discussing their own debate than they were, and that's probably a bad thing, but
Well,
in
yeah.
retrospect, holy shit, man.
Well, and it's really only gotten worse. So honestly, I'd like to kick this podcast off with what I'm calling Biden hit pieces. So this is a whole bunch of shit that has come out, and this is not every article about the post debate world that we now live in with Joe Biden. So, and none of these are Fox based like articles, nothing. Okay,
From the left.
this is the left eating the left here. Okay, number one, The Atlantic. Is Biden's bubble bursting? Some establishment Democrats are starting to face reality. The Daily Beast. Obama is getting real with allies about Biden's chances. Report. Obama also spoke with the president during a call after the debate. The Hill. Leaked polling memo shows shook Democrats in their boots, says former Obama advisor. The Wall Street Journal. Biden's ABC interview showed a president in denial. So, as we all know, he decided to go on and do a 22-minute long interview. 22. And Sagar was just recently complaining about this because when he would interview Trump, it would be for like 35 minutes at a time. He was like,
Yeah.
you rarely find any interviews less than 30 minutes. And his performance, even after this, did not like quell any of the fucking issues that people were having here. So,
He does this thing where he like locks up, he kind of freezes. It's so I guess there's a now that it's all out there, it could be said, but it wasn't
mm,
able to be said before. And I guess the White House had a doctor who like is an expert in Parkinson's come by the White House in like January, and it's like, oh, okay.
right.
Um,
Well, so Biden has said that he like refuses to take a cognitive test because his cognitive test is every day when he's in the office,
yeah, I don't know what the
which
fuck that means.
and it's not good either.
It's not good the way he
It's a
says it.
people are talking about his like legacy as we go forward and that he's like hurting his legacy. His legacy wasn't good. Okay?
No,
People forget that back in like the 80s when he ran for president, he literally had to resign from the ticket and trying to get the win in the primary because he's a known liar. Like he said he graduated the top of his class for law school and he graduated at the bottom. He's been caught plagiarizing shit. Like he's been a liar forever. So, and he's also been a fucking narcissist forever, as we see now, where he's saying, "I'm not
yes.
going to drop out," and basically only God can tell him to drop out, probably by
that is
finally killing him.
that is not your words. That is
No,
his words.
so, everybody wants to talk about Donald Trump being a fucking fascist. Let's look at the fascist nature of Joe Biden right now. What a fucking loser.
So there were warning signs, but if you were on the right, or you like focused, or you had like, let's say, right media in your social feeds, you kind of knew the entire time. Hmm. But if you were on the left has a problem where they don't speak the same language. They don't speak the right's language, but the right speaks the left's language and understands the left better than the left does the right.
Yeah.
So there were two instances where it was apparent there was a problem. The first one was the Easter Bunny thing. Do you remember this?
Vaguely.
It was Easter, and they had an Easter bunny costume person, and then he was being asked questions about Afghanistan from the crowd, and the Easter bunny came by and waved at him and pulled him aside, so he didn't answer any questions. And then the second time, let's see, what was the other? Well, he's fallen a lot, but that doesn't really have to do with Parkinson's, I guess. There was one other one I had in mind, but
Well, that's
that
not
was
true. People
3 years
who
ago.
have Parkinson's do tend to fall a lot
I
more.
thought he just fell because he was 1,000 years old.
But so one of the things that this will show, it like talks a little bit about his stutter. Keep in mind, he did not have a stutter until, I don't know, like 2016. So this is like a newly formed stutter, which means it's probably just his brain shutting down and him,
Go listen to him
stuttering.
in 2016. He sounds crazily.
I know people with a stutter.
Yeah.
That ain't it, buddy. So.
Oh, I remember the other
Going
time
on,
was
'cause I have more, but yes, continue.
Well, let me mention the second event that kind of give you an indication of how bad it was that he declined the Super Bowl interview, which would have been the easiest layup interview.
Yep.
It would have been so easy, and he declined it.
Yep. Well, and then he even said in his interview with George Stephanopoulos, they gave him a COVID test. They gave him tests for, like, I guess, autoimmune something or whatever. Like, and basically he's just pushed out the narrative that he had a cold. And he was getting over a bad cold. Because he's like, they didn't come up with COVID or any other sickness. He's like, it was just a bad cold. Sure, buddy. Sure. Considering the next day you were completely fine. So,
Joe, you did so good, Joe.
And you know what's funny is actually you'll see a lot of like the Daily Beast, Wall Street Journal, shit like that. It's a lot of the same media companies like pushing out the same narrative. So it's like they have all of their writers going after this story and trying to like nail them, which is kind of hilarious. So Daily Beast, Dem fundraiser mocks Biden interview, Davy Crockett at Alamo. Biden's appearance on ABC News did little to improve some opinions on the president's ability to continue in the 2024 race. Called him fucking Davy Crockett at the Alamo. Like, come on.
So there's been this talk now that, first of all, I don't know if he's going to resign or not, but not resign, although he could. But he would, they would nominate Kamala Harris, right? And it seems more and more likely that that's going to be what's happening.
We're going to get there, buddy. Just you wait. Trust me, I already know what you're thinking before you think it.
Well, okay? let me ask you this though, like, because you're gonna get there, but I mean, she would do better than he's doing, right? We do think that,
maybe,
even though she's that awful.
Maybe. So keep that one in mind.
Okay.
Wall Street Journal. The week when big Biden donors started defecting, the ABC interview did little to reverse their despair among several large dollar backers, while some reiterated support. Wall Street Journal. Biden interview fails to alleviate voters' concerns. I think he's in denial about everything. Americans who watched Friday's ABC News interview voice fears about the president's age and acuity. From New York Magazine and The Intelligencer, Biden's norm-shattering response to the post-debate crisis. The problems are ethical, not just political. The Atlantic, and keep in mind, this is not every article that's come out.
Oh, there's so many more.
I kind of just stopped keeping track.
You got the greatest hits.
Right. The Atlantic. Some 81-year-olds would make great presidents, but not Biden. Joe Biden is a remarkably active octogenarian, not a remarkably sharp one. Remember, his sharpness is what Democrats have been pushing forever.
Well, he does backflips in private while reciting world leaders, they've said.
Get this one. I don't know if you would have seen this. Wall Street Journal. Biden aides wrote questions for radio hosts who interviewed him. Efforts to control the president's image come as more Democratic lawmakers publicly call on Biden to step aside. They've actually said they're going to stop doing that now. That's going to be very detrimental to Joe Biden. I promise you that. because he's not
They've
going to be able to answer the questions.
no, they remember those press cards they sent out to him. They got a picture of it where it had the journalist's name
Mm-hmm.
or picture on it, and all the questions that she was going to
Right.
ask.
Right. So it's like you have to keep him on script or on prompter or whatever, like so that he can hopefully read it. And he's not even particularly adept at that, as there are times when he's reading the prompter and he literally goes end of
End
quote,
of quote. I love that
which
so
is
much.
on
It's
the
my favorite
prompter.
thing.
Like, and don't get me wrong, I've read from a prompter before. Sometimes you just have the urge to say it because you're reading it and you like just finish talking. So I get it. But I expect you to be a little bit better than that if you're the president. This is from The New Yorker. This is what the 25th Amendment was designed for. If Joe Biden doesn't willingly resign, there's another solution, which would allow Democrats to unite around a new incumbent. I don't disagree.
Never
But
gonna
this would
happen.
be the first time in history that we invoke the 25th, correct?
Yeah, because the only reason we have it is because Woodrow Wilson, like Edith Wilson, was basically running the show, just
But
like Hunter Biden is now.
doesn't it require the vice president to make a move?
I don't I don't know who initiates that.
Because it would be to her benefit to do so, in my opinion.
She could only do it if everybody, all the party leaders like Jim Clyburn and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and all these like horrible people, if they Gavin Newsom, anybody, if they all got behind Kamala, it'd be great for her. But if it's splintered off, then you'd have problems.
Agreed. So the Atlantic, or I'm sorry, this one's from Vox. Forget 4 more years. Is Biden fit to serve now? The urgent question about Biden's mental fitness that Democrats aren't yet asking.
That one in Vox is actually really interesting.
It's hilarious because Vox is a propaganda mouthpiece of the left,
Yeah.
1,000%. Like Vox, I believe it was saying that Kyle Rittenhouse killed black people, and he didn't. He shot 3 white people, no black people. But
People
they
don't
push
know
that
that to this day.
narrative,
Yeah.
right? There are people that don't know that. Just hilarious. Jimmy Dore was just talking about that on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Hmm.
He's a comedian, but he used to work for like the Young Turks, I think, and stuff.
Oh shit.
He's like a fairly progressive guy, but you have to
Oh,
listen to that podcast. He's like, they fucking lie to
I really
everybody.
want to.
Like
Yeah.
he's like, the left keeps lying to everybody. So go ahead and listen to that one. It was very good.
They're not getting away with it anymore. It's just not working.
No. The Atlantic. Time to roll the dice. Biden's party doesn't need to sleepwalk into a catastrophe.
All right.
The Daily Beast. Obama privately goes shaky after offering to prop up Biden. Barack Obama tweeted his support for Joe Biden last week, saying that bad debates happen, which he also said in his interview, I just had a bad night. However, he is reportedly delivering a much harsher assessment privately.
He's the one who can force it.
Exactly. The Daily Beast. Biden told key ally he's considering dropping out of the race, per the New York Times. But as we know now, he has since come out saying he will not drop out.
So I want to bring up one point about that. It's not him who won't drop out or listen to other voices. His one single, he's got 3 staffers I read about who all have over like $100,000 in student loan debt, which tells you everything, right? They're all very progressive, and he's got Hunter Biden there, who's now his like senior advisor or whatever. And it's simple to just do the math. Hunter Biden doesn't want to go to jail.
Well, he's a felon
Yeah.
currently as it stands, so he actually shouldn't even be able to hold a clearance
Oh, of course
to
not. I
be
don't.
even anywhere near Biden.
I'm 99% sure, 100% sure actually, that if he was a normal person, he would not have that security clearance.
Oh, 100%. This is from Slate magazine. We can't unsee what we saw. The debate was bad. The spin is even worse.
Yeah,
It's pretty bad.
it's pretty
Wall
bad.
Street Journal. Democratic unity cracks in wake of Biden's debate performance. Representative Lloyd Doggett calls on the president to leave race while other Democrats urge him to take a hard look at his future. The Atlantic. The lie Democrats are telling themselves. Republicans aren't the only party putting tribal loyalty ahead of basic truth.
It's been that way the whole time, but
Dude, that's just funny.
now
Is
they can
like
say it.
these aren't just explicitly Biden hit pieces. They're Democrat hit pieces across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what Biden, I don't think, realizes, and this is actually really interesting to me because you and I have kind of talked about Donald Trump being the death of the Republican Party, right? Like, once
Mm-hmm.
he's gone, they got nothing. They need this next 4 years. They need Trump to win so that they can set something up for the future because they have really nobody in the pipeline.
Right.
DeSantis isn't going to do it he can't do it anymore. I think if you've lost to Trump or you've bowed out to Trump like Nikki Haley and like all that shit, I don't necessarily think you can be the party leader anymore. I
Only if
just
Trump anoints you, but I think he would anoint his own kids before he would anoint somebody like
100%,
DeSantis. Yeah.
100%. So unless the junior Trumps want to take a stab at the Republican Party or Jared Kushner, maybe
No,
they have nothing.
I think the two kids who kill the African animals, those two idiots, they want it.
Oh, of course. I mean, but we'll see. Does the Republican Party fall in line behind them, or what? I mean,
I
who
don't know.
knows?
Yeah. But you were about to say the same thing for Biden, which is he's killing his own party as
Right.
well.
He's absolutely killing his own party. With him not leaving, but he doesn't have a successor in the way that at least Donald Trump does. So now what? One of the articles that I saved, but I actually didn't put it on this list, was how RFK is benefiting from the Biden debate debacle. Um,
Uh,
but he's actually seeing an uptick in polls, and he had his own debate that night that got, I think, like 4 million live views or something like that.
I mean,
So
that's not nothing.
that's not nothing. And those might have been people who are like, okay, I know what Biden Trump is going to be. Let me watch this and see if he offers anything better. He is polling higher and stuff like that, and he says he's going to be on all the ballots. He is a valid third option for some people. I don't think I can vote for him because he's been pretty anti-2A up to pretty much this point. I mean, now he's saying he changed his mind, but I don't know if you that's a big one, right? Like, you're either pro-gun or anti-gun. Like, it's very rare that somebody actually changes their frame of mind about it.
Yeah, I
So,
would say if you're how old is he? Like 78, maybe
no, he's only like
75.
71.
Oh, okay. Yeah, at that age, if you're changing your position on the Second Amendment, I would
Right.
question it for sure.
Even though you've been in politics for, 30, 40 years and you've been anti-2A like this whole time. So, I'm sorry, you can't get my vote, even though I don't want to vote for anyone else.
I'm writing in Mike Rowe.
So,
Okay. Do you want to keep going?
I have
Because
more. So
I
many
have.
more.
Okay,
And they're
well, I
good.
have some too, and
Okay.
they're gonna tie into yours. I'm pretty sure.
So, Daily Beast, Michael Ian Black. This is a Biden emergency. He needs to exit the race. He said he wouldn't leave him unattended in front of a microwave oven, let alone with the nuclear football.
If you lose that guy, you've lost like the most
Oh
lefty
yeah.
person in the world.
Mm-hmm. Reuters. Biden faces growing doubts from Democrats in his 2024 reelection. Rolling Stone, who also does lie a lot. No one is buying the Biden campaign spin. Daily Beast again. Our U.S. gerontocracy needs to go, and Biden isn't even the worst. The debate exposed our 81-year-old president, but if you think he's old, have you met the rest of them? And this article came with pictures of Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, pretty much the Democrat elite, and saying that now they all need to fucking go, which
It's
I
across
agree
the
with.
board. It's like McConnell as well.
Well, they're out here backing him. Uh, the Republicans are going to back Joe Biden on the ticket no matter what because
Yeah.
all the polls coming out are showing like a fucking grand slam home run for Donald Trump over Biden, like landslide victory basically. And then during the interview, Biden was like, "Well, we did our own internal polling and it shows that we're actually beating him." What
Yeah,
the
his
fuck
internal
are you talking
poll
about?
is Hunter Biden. He's like, what do you think,
The
Pops?
best and the worst of all the polling best and worst, all show Trump ahead by a lot.
He got a little bit of a bump from the debate.
Right. Well, even I will say about the interview that Stephanopoulos did with Joe Biden, he
surprisingly,
he like held his feet to the fire and was like, well, this is reality. And he's like, I've never seen a president win with like a 36% approval rating.
Stephanopoulos, by the way, was by Clinton's chief of staff, right? I think so. The guy comes from the guy is like a Democratic royalty, I suppose.
Right. And he was rocking it.
Mm.
So let's see. Business Insider: White House aide dishes on dealing with a moody, aging Biden. Vox: 5 terrible reasons for Biden to stay in the race. A rebuttal of the bad but prominent arguments for the president's candidacy. The New Yorker: the window for replacing Biden is rapidly closing.
Might already be closed.
Right. Newsweek: full list of Democrats criticizing Biden after debate. That list is growing. National Review: the cover-up of Biden's mental decline isn't just a political problem, it's a scandal. It's the fucking National Review. Daily Beast: Dem breaks on Biden. Pelosi says fitness is a legitimate question.
I would say National Review is the only one I have any respect for out of all of them so far.
Right. Slate: do not underestimate the danger of a Biden second term. The Democratic Party's double standard. Trump is not the only person on earth who cannot be trusted with power.
86 years old by the time he's done.
Mm-hmm. Rolling Stone: Democrats start calling for Biden to end campaign. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution: 100-year-old vet says he saw the faraway look in Joe Biden's eyes.
Oh boy. Lost the 100-year-olds.
100-year-olds. The Wall Street Journal: the inevitability of Biden's reckoning. Democrats are paying the price for overriding voter concerns about the president's age. Wall Street Journal again: the Democrats deserve Biden, even if the country doesn't. They've deceived and gaslit us for 4 years, all in the name of democracy, and that collapsed on Thursday. The Hill: Bob Woodward brands Biden debate performance a political H-bomb. That's a fucking Bob Woodward. The New Yorker: Ezra Klein on why the Democrats are too afraid of replacing Biden. The president's supporters have long treated his age as a superficial issue. The Times commentator explains why that position has become untenable. And then Rolling Stone again: Biden ally blames poor debate performance on preparation overload and stutter. Joe Biden has a history of stuttering, said James Clyburn, adding, all of us know how stutters operate. Yeah, and not like that.
I don't know if anybody actually does know how stutters operate based on how they talk about it.
Right. And so you said, to circle back to, I said hold that thought, you think Kamala Harris can be the front runner. Already releasing hit pieces on her. The Hill: why Democrats must now push out Kamala Harris. Newsweek: Democrats have a Kamala Harris problem if Biden drops out.
She has a problem. I'm not sorry to interrupt you. She is a problem. I'm not saying she's not. I'm just saying she might be better off. First of all, they cannot get rid of her because they raised $100 million in that PAC, and it can only go to her if he resigns.
Right.
They can't. It would just be throwing away money.
So last one I have here from the Wall Street Journal: the mess Democrats have made, a Kamala Harris edition. Imagine if Biden had chosen a vice president of competence rather than identity politics. Okay. Which nails it. So one headline nails it.
This leads into where I'm going to go now. New York Post on July 6th, today's the 7th, so yesterday, they write, America may soon be subjected to the country's first DEI president, Kamala Harris. And when they wrote that, they had tons of people come out and calling it just absolutely racist.
Oh yeah, do you know who Nina Turner is?
She's the ultimate
super progressive.
Bait. Yeah. She's clickbait on. Yeah, I'm sure she gets money from X because of her engagement numbers.
Yeah, so she was on X and tweeted out this is copy tweeted that or whatever. It was like, this is super racist, and I was like, Not really. It's
Okay,
the
so here's
truth. Like, she was
okay,
only
so
picked because she was a black woman and not because of her competency, as we
yeah,
all can tell.
let's go back to 2020. CNN. Joe Biden says he is considering 4 black women to be his running mate. ABC News. Biden hears calls for black woman VP, but hasn't made a decision, senior advisor. Uh, I don't know where this one came from. Joe Biden definitely vows to pick a woman vice president. And the last one, AP. Biden pressed to choose a black woman as his running mate. Sorry, that's what she
And
was
so,
brought in for.
how is this going? How is this going?
Like it does for everything else, really poorly when you
So
try to force it like that.
it's actually funny to see this, right? Because you and I have talked a little bit um, about how DEI is kind of going away. It's like working its way out of the system. We're seeing DEI jobs and departments being cut.
They're the
I
first
mean,
ones to go.
right. They're the first ones to go. All the funding dried up from whatever government funds they were receiving in grants. And now it's like one of the first things to go. Yet here we are stuck with somebody that you just can't fucking get rid of. And it's directly due to that. I mean, she was so incompetent.
She's a radical. I mean,
She's
she really is. Go look. If you look back to the primary she went through, she said some crazy shit. Like,
She called Biden a fucking rapist to his face.
yeah, it was the
And then
busing thing.
this is how you know she doesn't deserve it. As soon as he offered it, she jumped on it. If you thought he was a rapist, you wouldn't have taken it.
Yeah, and she. I mean, when I say she's a radical, I mean like she's a California radical. Like it's different. It's different when it comes from this state
Oh, you would
because
know.
I would. Because A, she was a fucking tyrant when it came to marijuana, and they still haven't done any of that, decriminalized it or anything. But also, I
They
mean,
rescheduled it.
they yeah, that's right, yeah. But
They
it's
rescheduled it.
they got to decriminalize it. And they got to get all the people out of prison who
But she
have
literally defied a judge's order to let people out of prison and
yeah,
kept them
she's
in there.
yeah, and then she's also the I'm going to reform the whatever, but she wants to like raise taxes and just she said all kinds of absurd
Right.
shit in the past, and I believe she believes it.
But this is how Tulsi Gabbard trashed her, and she dropped out shortly after that. Was because she tried to attack Tulsi Gabbard as being like an what's his name Assad apologist
Oh,
and like all that stuff, and that she went, I think, and like interviewed Assad or something,
Bashar
and
al-Assad
talked to
got interviewed
him.
by Tulsi
Yeah,
Gabbard. She visited him. That's right.
right. And instead of being like, that's good diplomacy, because it is, you kind of want to talk to old world leaders. Like, Obama did meet with Putin. Like, let's not forget that. Does that make him like a Russian shill? No. Um, Probably is, but no. Um, and she was attacked for that, and so Tulsi was like, "Yeah, well, what about like all this shit?" And then it was within like a week or two, I think, after that Kamala Harris had to drop out because
Yeah, she had a
she knew that she was going to be in the running to get that vice presidency, because she's a woman of color who's a Democrat and from California, and they like to pick people from California.
it's so it'll never make sense to me. I because there was I always thought like you would go with Tammy Duckworth if you were going to pick because Tammy Duckworth was like a legitimate politician, whereas Kamala Harris just she wasn't elected to the Senate. I mean, they lost. They I don't know how she got the seat. I don't remember at this point, but
She's probably appointed,
she was appointed by Newsom,
right?
and or maybe it
Because
was the guy before him. But
somebody died or resigned or something, and then they don't have an election, they just pick somebody, which is bullshit. Like, you want to talk about democracy, if somebody resigns or steps down, you need to have an election, not just an appointment. I
well, you do for Congress,
vehemently
but
disagree with that.
I guess the governor can appoint the anyway. Her whole career in the state of California, from being on Montel Williams' dick all the way to now, has just been a failure upward, and she's just a bad. She's just bad.
Well, all of California politics is fail upward. Like, that's just
Uh,
what they do.
on the coast, yeah, for sure. Well, it's it's just too big of a state, you know. I don't know if it's ever going to change, but you've heard me say that before. It's just the fact that you have like one guy who can govern this whole state is kind of like remarkable.
I mean,
It's too
how
much
many
power.
like Republicans are even ever elected in your state?
Well,
Like at
in the
least on a state
House,
level. Obviously, locally
yeah,
it could be a little different, like school
we
board and shit. But
more than you would expect. You'd be surprised, but there, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was he a Republican, or was he just a famous celebrity who got elected? I'll never know, but
I think he was just a celebrity who
yeah,
got
and he just
elected
decided I'll be a
because,
Republican.
especially remember all the shit he said during COVID about just like staying locked up and like all this other shit. Like he was not good on COVID. Not that he was in office, but he just was not. His thoughts and views on it were awful.
Yeah, I would. It's not gonna matter, I guess, but I would, you know, because they have to pick her. I'd whatever. I would be really hesitant to appoint or get or elect or do any Democrat from California. I
I
think
don't
it's
think
just a
they
huge risk.
have to. I think you're right as far as like funding and stuff goes. Like that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's $100 million
But
that they
I
would just
mean,
forfeit.
dude, some of the articles I didn't put in here are how pissed off her and her camp are that they aren't even being considered. That Democrats just want nothing to do with her. They want to just skip up ahead of her and choose someone else, and they're fucking pissed off. But they're sitting here backing Joe Biden 1,000%. Like she's saying the right things in terms of like backing him up and stuff like that. But to the caveat of that like 25th Amendment article that I said, like it would benefit her directly to try and gather the votes for basically invoking the 25th.
If I was her, I would be like talking to
Oh,
every leadership.
fuck yeah. You'd
Come
be
on,
right
Obama.
behind it because this
Yeah,
is your shot. You know that nobody else wants you. Your ace in the hole is like, hey, let's go one step further. Let's
you have the
invoke the
chance to
25th
be.
Amendment. Get him out
Yeah,
now.
you could
So
be the
that,
very first woman president.
right.
Wow.
And then people might vote for that. Be like, hey, we finally have one. Like, let's vote for that. I think that's the only way to go. If you try, like, Democrats are trying to get basically the electors to choose Joe Biden before they have their convention.
Yeah, because democracy. You have to save
Right, so
democracy
that they can just like anoint him, and not have
for
a
democracy.
contested convention. And like, like you said, democracy's on the ballot. They keep saying that. They're the
But
ones fucking with it.
yeah,
Like more than ever, they're the ones fucking with it. And I don't understand why people don't see this. And this is why not everybody should vote. Because like all the morons that don't see this shit and they're like, no, that's not true. It is fucking true. Like you shouldn't vote.
so the national convention for the Democrats is August 19th to the 22nd. So they've got 2 months and change. 1 month and change. 1 month and change. So
Well, we have another debate coming at some point.
that'd be really exciting. That'd be
What's the
really
date of
interesting.
that?
What
The
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 second?
second debate.
I
Is
don't
it
know if it's gonna
is it
happen.
post convention?
Let me check.
Because that seems like,
Jamie, pull that up.
yeah, that seems like a good
September 10th.
September 10th. Okay,
It'll be
so
after.
they have an opportunity to at least put somebody coherent in the debate that will probably destroy Trump. Kamala Harris ain't that.
Well, it's really hard to know because she doesn't. It's hard to know.
What was her
I'm
new thing?
thinking.
What can be unburdened?
Yeah,
Like
the
she's a
unburdened by
fucking
the
idiot.
past.
I sent
Um,
you a video. I think it was from the Bee, and it was like her. It was like a day in the life of the writer of for Kamala Harris, and it was like a 6-year-old. he was like, he was like, I just really like words, and I realized that I could get a job putting just words together. So it was like this whole video just clowning Kamala Harris, and it was so fucking funny, man.
I've got some Kamala Harris quotes here. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank. talking about what we have in terms of the Eastern flank and our NATO allies, and what is at stake at this very moment. What is at stake this very moment are some guiding principles.
And where was she when she said that? Because
I guess Ukraine, or it was about Ukraine.
But she can't go back to the border. Isn't she the border czar?
She fixed the border.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah, it's fixed now.
Thanks to a Biden executive order that exactly mirrors what Donald Trump did. Sure.
Yeah, with like 75% less effectiveness. I was gonna say, if they wanted to replace her with like a Gretchen Whitmer, who's not great, but like
she said she won't do it. Gretchen Whitmer said she won't do it. She's already thrown her support behind Biden.
Until she will.
That's
Josh
true.
Shapiro.
That's true.
I mean, Josh Shapiro would probably be a pretty good choice because Pennsylvania's a swing state.
He's also Jewish. Well, that's why they were looking at pretty much everybody. Everybody that they said should be a replacement was governor of a swing state. Because they just want that swing state. And I'll say this. I don't hate Josh Shapiro. I did not vote for him. But he's not the worst governor we've had. Governor Wolf was way worse. And Josh Shapiro so far has not been all that bad. We actually have a $14 billion surplus or something like that in this state. And he's trying to be able to use that money to fund certain initiatives, and basically all of his initiatives that he wants to fund, he said if we funded all of them, we would still have an $11 billion surplus.
I would definitely be scared when a politician says that, but because we said that in California, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the government grossly miscalculates what they need to spend on something, and it ends up being terrible, as per usual. And so then they try to throw more money at it, and it just continues to get worse. And then all of a sudden, you're declaring bankruptcy like fucking Detroit did.
Yeah. So, what is the percentage odds that Biden is on the ballot in November? Is it 100%? He's definitely on it. Is it 0? He's definitely not.
It's not 0. It's not 0. I think the only way that they can truly get rid of him is to invoke the 25th, because they would have to fuck with their own rules even further to get all of these electors to say that, or to have I think Joe Biden has to release them from their pledge. So he
owns them.
Right.
Yes.
He owns them. So he would have to give up his rule over those electors so they could pick someone else. It doesn't seem like he's going to do that. I mean, Jill Biden is completely into it and trying to keep him alive.
Yeah, she loves power. That dirty bitch. What are those? What's your percentage though? You got to give me a percentage.
That he's still on the ballot?
Yeah.
I'd have to say at least 70%.
I was going to go 80%.
Yeah, I don't think they get him to go away. He's a fucking narcissist.
Of course he is. So is his son and wife.
This was his shot, right? This was his shot. I mean, he tried to run, back in the 80s or 90s?
80s. Yes.
In the 80s?
88.
And had to drop out because of the plagiarism shit and the lying, And then he just remained in his seat for a while until he became vice president, and who continued to lie and obviously use his influence in Ukraine and all this other shit.
Yeah.
I'm shocked as to why Obama picked him.
Because
I didn't pay as much attention back then.
There's a lot of reasons actually. I think he had appeal to voters that weren't young. And I think they just needed just a body that could do the job of winning a debate, although he didn't win that debate in my opinion, but it was just they just needed a fucking him.
They needed a warm body.
An empty suit. Yeah, that's all it was. Let's talk about the 25th Amendment really quick. I just want to read it to you. Not the amendment, but The 25th Amendment addresses what happens if a president or vice president of the United States dies, resigns, or becomes incapacitated or is otherwise unable to fulfill their duties. It was passed by Congress on July 6, 1965. It also formalized the practice of the vice president taking over the presidential office. And I think I read here that the vice president is the primary starting point for invoking it.
Right. It's her fucking move. Like,
I would totally do it if I was her. I'd be like,
100%.
Let's go.
You already have a list of Democrats willing to be like, support it, even if they aren't one of like the votes. It's pressure received. I think Nancy Pelosi would go for it. I think Chuck Schumer might go for it. I mean, you have some pretty high-level Democrats that might go for it if Kamala Harris is like, yeah, this is my shot. Like, let's take it.
I mean, like, say what you will about how awful she is, but she's like young and she could travel.
Right.
I mean, this guy doesn't travel really.
I don't think she's smart enough. I really don't. I don't think she sees it as her only path. Which is sad. Well, not sad because I don't want her in office, but it's sad that she doesn't see that really this is her only option because Democrats are going to pass her over. She is not their selection.
I just got this quote pulled up. It says leaders on Hakeem Jeffries' call today are calling for Harris as the nominee.
Ugh. Honestly, you're not. So Stephanopoulos again said to Joe Biden, "I've never seen a president win with 35% approval rating." Kamala Harris is like less approval rating, I think, than Joe Biden.
She's not.
It might have gone up now since the debate, but it used to be lower than Joe Biden's approval rating.
Yeah, I would say like it's probably because she doesn't really get out there. I mean, you see her, you and I see her on social media because we're obsessed with like politics and you see her gaffes. But I mean, I don't know if the country broadly knows anything about her. She comes from California, but California politicians are virtually ignored in the rest of the country.
Well, yeah, because they're an aberration. Like you just know it's going to be blue and it's going to be stupid and it's going to be terrible policy. Like
exactly.
And you want these fucking idiots running the country. It's like some people are like, oh, we got to pick a California Democrat. Why? Their politics suck. And that's, now like they had talked about Gavin Newsom earlier on, because let's not pretend that this is a new thing, right? Like the Gavin Newsom thing had come up.
He visited in January. He was at the White House.
Yeah. Like it all happened way before this. And Newsom got recalled in his own fucking state and just happened to survive that recall. Like,
yeah.
I think people on a nationwide like scale don't see that and don't understand that. And that's to the detriment of everybody else. And that's what I mean is like, I don't think the Democratic Party is ready to experience the losses that they're going to see. Because the big reason why they're even looking to start replacing Joe Biden is that it's actually starting to hurt on the local level and the state level.
Down ballot.
Like down ballot is starting to hurt because people see how bad Joe Biden is. And they're like, oh, well, now we have to replace him because we're going to lose everywhere else. They kind of don't care about the presidency. They care if Republicans get a supermajority and Donald Trump is the president.
Thank you for bringing that up, because what a lot of the big donors were saying when they're pulling out, they're dropping support for Biden altogether, right? The reason why they're doing that is to put the money towards state and local races so that they can have a firewall against Trump when he wins. I don't know. I said win because
but I don't.
It's like really going that way.
It's looking that way, and Trump is winning in demographics that like you don't think he would be winning in,
and states too. Virginia, like what?
I mean, he's pulling out all the stops, and Biden during his interview was like, "Oh, did you see how many people I had at my rally?" And George Stephanopoulos was like, that was like a gymnasium. He's like, I don't think you want to go tit for tat with Trump on rallies. He's like, he can draw quite a crowd.
Well, the other thing is, I saw Sean Spicer said, you probably don't want to talk about crowd size, because that was like his first, press conference or whatever. It was really embarrassing. It was about the inauguration, and they were talking about crowd sizes, and it really set the tone for the next 4 years.
I don't know, man.
It's fun.
80%
If
seems probably right. To
yeah,
for your question, like
well,
that actually
because
probably seems right. I don't think he's
I
going
think he's an
anywhere.
arrogant prick. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna
As
go
much as
anywhere.
he talks about like trying to save the country and save democracy and all that, even though you're not doing that at all, you're not really doing the democratic thing. Uh, he's just too fucking sick in the head. He's too much
I
of a
mean,
narcissist. He has
yeah.
to be president. Like this was his shot. So like now he has to just maintain that.
I mean, my 80% is the only caveated by one thing, and that's that I'm assuming he's not going to die.
That could be a concern. Although you said, "Oh, my doctor said that everything's fine. Like I just had a cold."
You
I
just
don't
fall
know,
that one
man.
time, you know?
Like the decline that you have had is excessive. Like it's excessive.
He freezes up, and it's weird to see. And it's bad because we're like, I think, assume naively as Americans that like the rest of the world doesn't really like, they're all doing their own thing or whatever, but the rest of the world is watching for
Well,
sure.
the rest of the world, yeah, this kind of brings us to not just a Joe Biden situation that we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes. The rest of the world is really interesting right now. Like the UK
Yeah.
just elected
Come on, buddy.
is it
You can
Nigel
do it.
Farage's party?
No,
The
no. Nigel
Conservative
Farage did
Party.
win, though.
They
No, the Reform Party
the Reform
is
Party
Nigel
won.
Farage, but
No,
no, it
well, the
was
Conservative Party won.
no the Conservative. The Tories lost.
The
I
Tories
think.
lost.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
the
like the
Labor's
first time in
in.
like 20 years or something like that.
I'm pulling it up now,
So
and
they're
also you could talk about France as
right.
well.
So
France.
yeah, France just had their elections. They did like a runoff, and basically two parties tried to make sure that this what's it called, the National Rally Party or something like that, didn't win, and I
They
think they
picked the
ended up
socialist.
winning
Yeah.
anyway.
No, the socialist one.
The socialist one, no, even
Yeah.
better.
Keir Starmer, who is a
Yeah.
center left party member, and yeah, it's been 14 years of right wing government, but right wing over there is different than
Yeah,
us.
that's the thing that I don't think people realize either, is that right and left wing are completely different in that side of the world. Even though there are a lot of articles that will say right wing as like a bad thing. So Marine Le Pen's party did actually do well in their elections, though,
They did.
in
They just
France.
didn't
They
win
didn't
the
win,
runoff,
right? They didn't
right?
win the
Okay.
runoff, but they did win seats. That's going to be important for them.
Well, it's a backlash against migration. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for her.
So I don't know when the last like German election was, but a buddy of mine was saying that they have a pretty kind of like right wing uh, party in power now in Germany
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, like you said though, like right wing means something different. So
Right,
it's right in Germany is probably like socialist or
but
something.
they're trying to get get immigrants and stuff out of there because they really do have like an Islam problem over there in Europe.
They have a
It's
big
big,
problem with a lot of stuff,
yeah.
yeah.
But now,
Olaf Scholz.
who just won the European Union
Ugh.
leadership? Viktor Orban. He won. He won some
Victor
seat. He won
Victor
some
Orban
seat
is
in the UK.
yeah, but Victor Orban, what country is he from? Hungary?
I think so. But he just won a big seat in the European like Union, whatever, because they have like their government for the whole European Union, and then like every country has their own like government. And he's I think they saw him cozying up to Putin. Maybe he was like shaking hands with Putin or something like
Always
that.
has been, yeah.
So you have
He's
that
the
too.
5-time prime minister of Hungary. Ah, I see here. I found something. Orban's party takes most votes in Hungary's EU election. So maybe it's just his party. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know how that works.
something like that. Yeah, I mean, they obviously there's a government that oversees the entire EU. Um, And then they all have obviously their own local
So
governments and
lame.
presidents. And yeah, like
Um,
you hired a government to run your governments. Like, I don't know. It's so
way to
stupid.
go, you tools. Yeah, so like you said, the good stuff going on overseas, or maybe not good stuff. I don't know.
It depends. If you read US articles, it's not good stuff because they call them right wing, right? Like, but they're taking that, I don't know if they're taking that into the context of the US based right wing versus what right wing means in Europe or not.
I would say they probably are, because our media just it lives in two
Right.
places and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all left. So it's like the bubble in a bubble kind of thing.
They just want to make you see, like, make it seem like the whole world is basically this, like, giant right wing coalition at this point. And I don't know, we're seeing stuff like that. So it'll be real interesting to see what happens around the world. I think in the next few months, it could get
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
yeah, you're right. Um, okay. So, and also with Israel as well, because that's another overseas story that's kind of changing. I think there's now protests in Israel for a ceasefire as well, and
Well,
that's surprising to me.
it's never going to happen. I mean, if anything, they're just going to change their direction and start to fight Hezbollah. They've already kind of started doing that. They moved some troops out of uh, the Gaza Strip and kind of more towards the north of Israel so that they can fight Hezbollah. And that's not really going to go as well as they think. Believe it or not,
Well,
Hezbollah is
the
very well armed.
Hezbollah is launching rockets from Lebanon cities now, so they're using civilians as cover as well. But I was going to mention that as far as like Gaza goes, it sounds like I listened to a podcast recently that was with somebody who's been doing the day after plan with the Palestinians, and she's been working in that team for like I guess since like maybe like November of last year, and so she kind of laid out like a lot of what they've discussed, and it is pretty interesting. Like they don't want to occupy the territory, but they want another country to occupy it, possibly like I don't
The
know.
U.S. maybe.
No, no, no. Like
Yes, come on.
Egypt,
No.
in concert with Saudi Arabia, or what was the other Jordan, and they had obviously they don't want Hamas to be in power, so they have to figure out how to give. They have to maintain the government and maintain like a functioning society, but give that to somebody else, and they've been working on that. It's just been really interesting to
Well,
hear
the
them talk about.
Palestinian Authority, who was one of the contenders for taking over
Sure.
Gaza, was just meeting with Hamas
Yeah.
in
Well, they're not
Qatar or
good. They're
whatever.
bad guys
So,
too.
right. So, like, everybody has kind of said, oh, like, well, the U.S. said that the Palestinian Authority could do it. So that shows you what they know.
Yeah,
And
our
then, but everyone
policy's
else
been
is like,
bad.
no thanks. Like, we don't want the Palestinian Authority. But now you basically just have Hamas infiltrating the Palestinian Authority, in my opinion. So why
Yeah,
not let the U.S. do the infrastructure there? Because, we built a pier and that went so well. So let us build everything else.
actually, it's even like funnier. Israel's the only country who's ever had to fight a war where they were building infrastructure for the enemy. Like they've started building like connections for electrical grids into Gaza because of international pressure. So they're like basically supplying their enemy with electricity. It's pretty
And
crazy.
then blowing up their own infrastructure, too.
Well, I don't know.
You know
It's
what's
going to be a
funny? I
mess.
think they talked about more funding for Ukraine. As we know, the U.S. just signed like a 10-year deal with Ukraine to keep providing aid and security and stuff like that. And they said they're gonna keep pumping money in and like all this other stuff. Well, they made it a point to try and state that that money is going to go through the U.S. economy first. So it's going to directly benefit the U.S. to be supporting the war in Ukraine and Israel. And that's such
But
fucking cheap dog shit.
so you don't buy that
No,
basically.
I don't buy that.
Okay. I mean, I guess both sides. I guess both your argument and their argument is probably true.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying
not
that
100%.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not saying that $0 is going into the U.S. economy. I mean, come on,
but it is
we
spin.
are
It's
building
definitely
all the
saying,
weapons that we give them.
yeah,
That's
but it
not
is
nothing.
spin.
Yeah,
I mean, we are giving money to them.
right.
That
It's
yeah.
spin. I mean, I already told you that we were funding like 46% of the money that we send to Ukraine funds pensions and their economy. Like we know that. So
Well, you gotta pay the people of Ukraine in the West so that they can have the food and electricity necessary so they can run their like OnlyFans accounts or whatever the fuck's going on over there. I don't.
right. Well,
There's like a whole.
it's funny because if you actually look at the majority of people fighting in Ukraine, they're all like over 30. The
Yeah.
youngest generation there does not want to fight. A lot of them are actually trying to pay, I think this is about 8,000 euros for you to basically pay a coyote to get you across the border with different papers. And it does fail because people will say like, oh, these aren't real or whatever. And they're trying to create like fake medical leave papers and stuff to get them out of the country so they don't have to fight. And then
It's so pathetic.
in Israel, they just passed basically a law that they can conscript Hasidic Jews, like the super traditional Jews, into the military,
They
and
don't have a
don't want
choice,
it.
dude.
They
Yeah, I
don't
know
want
they
it.
don't. Well, they don't have a choice. Like those. First of all, those people, those Hasidic Jews don't pay into the system at all. They're basically the government funds them to have their education, which is like a religious education, and it's not sustainable. Like
Right.
what choice did they have?
It's also funny to note that they are rounding people up for conscription. That is not fake. Like it's not a matter of you get a letter and then you choose to go or not go and then you
It's a
might be
small
arrested.
country, and
They're
everybody has to
literally
serve.
driving around in vans and shoving you in there and sending you to boot camp and like you will be on the front line within 6 weeks.
What you mean in Ukraine or in Israel?
Both.
Well, I mean
They're
in
rounding
Israel,
people up and forcing them into
sure.
conscription.
Well, I have no problem with that in Israel because that's been the policy the entire since the founding of the country. It's a tiny country. It's just that there were Hasidic Jews who didn't have to, and it's like, why is my kid dying in Gaza right now so that you can like study the Torah? Like, go fucking, I don't know, stack pallets somewhere. Like, do something, do anything.
Stacked pallets.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to go fight on the front lines. They can just like operate a forklift. Just make them like contribute something. That's why like it makes sense for like Poland to do like, I don't know, Ukrainian what would you call that? Like logistics, you know?
Oh yeah, my brother used to do that shit in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, like you need logistics people.
Right.
They're not necessarily in danger. So yeah, send your like the guy who doesn't like do good in PT or whatever. Have him drive a truck. I don't know.
My brother helped like load and unload helicopters and shit like that in the Marine Corps. That was
It's as
his
important
job.
as anything
Logistics.
else. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that gets you the shit you need to do your job.
Sure.
So it's not wrong.
Well, we've been going for 58 minutes. Which, by the way, I want to mention, I forgot to bring this up last podcast, or maybe the one before. I think we've blown past our second anniversary. It might be 2.5 years now.
I know.
Or around there.
We've been crushing it.
Did you have any lighter items for the day?
Man, I'm excited to go see a couple of movies this week. This Hindi movie Kill came out, and it's English subtitled, and it's pretty much billed as like one of the most violent movies ever made.
Sweet.
Looks great. I don't literally need to know anything about the story. The trailer for it is just violent as fuck. So I'm excited to go see that.
I'm seeing a lot of blood.
Long Legs comes out this week, and I'm telling you, like, just the reviews alone are saying it's like one of the best drama serial killer thrillers since Silence of the Lambs. I've also seen another one that said the same thing since Seven. And those are two like huge movies for me. I love both of those films. And it's Nicolas Cage. And they said that he is unbelievable in this movie from all the reviews I've seen so far. So I'm really excited to see this one.
You're really getting me going here.
I know. I'm like super pumped for that. Maxine, got this Stephen King stamp of approval. Not that I need that, because he's kind of like a liberal piece of shit, but, you know,
he's also somebody who didn't like The Shining at the time it came out,
right.
so his opinion is invalid. But
he also
I will say,
wrote the book, right? So
no, Maxine, I don't think is based on his
I mean,
book.
The Shining.
Oh yeah, but
So he's
fuck
allowed to
him.
not like the movie. I mean, he wrote the book.
I don't care. It still pisses me off to this day that he didn't like that movie, because I fucking adore that movie.
Oh, it's great.
I
love
I'm
it.
reading that Kubrick book right now, and I'm just like, man, I can't believe anybody. Poor Kubrick, man. He made like 10 of the coolest movies ever made, and like none of them made any money when they came out. They were like financial losses.
That was before you could do those like artsy kind of like films and shit. You
Yeah,
know, like
I can't believe they gave him money for like The Shining in 2001. But even like the earlier stuff, he was making movies that were like when he made Paths of Glory with Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas said, "You know, Stanley, this movie's not going to make any money, but let's do it anyway." Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see those movies for sure.
You should watch Pearl before.
I should. I
Yeah.
I think I watched X. That was the other one, right? It was like X,
Yeah.
Pearl.
We talked about this 2 weeks
Maxine,
ago, but
so
I don't like X, but I love Pearl.
yeah, I thought X it was fine.
It was like the first one. But they started collaborating. I don't know what made Mia Goth and this director like collaborate on this, but they worked on it together, and they just said, let's make more of them because it was COVID. Ty West.
Maxine looks good. I'll say it looks real good. I mean,
she's so good.
Ugh. She has a niche in horror for sure. Mia Goth, I mean, her niche is definitely in horror movies.
Yeah, she's like incredible in Pearl. She's got this one scene. There's the scene in that movie, and she's just like so good.
Has she been in anything that's not a horror movie?
She
was in, what's that one with
Infinity Pool?
Yeah, that one, which was actually really good. She was really good in that.
Well, she was dating Shia LaBeouf for a while there, and I think that's when she was making some independent movies. But I mean, she was in like the Suspiria remake and stuff like that. Yeah, I think she's just been horror.
Oh, that was pretty good though.
Oh yeah,
the Suspiria remake. Yeah, that was pretty.
Oh yeah, the end of that movie is fucking nuts.
Yeah, I didn't mind.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Emma, that's the only one I can see that's maybe. Oh, she was in Everest. Everest. Did you ever watch that with Josh Brolin?
Probably. That's a while ago, though.
It's a good movie. My last item is that I've been playing the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erd Tree. I think Elden Ring is probably like I would put it in the top 10 best games ever made, which is like kind of crazy, right? And then they came out with the DLC for it, and it's like somehow they have also perfected that into a DLC thing, which is not as big as the main game, but it's just as like, I don't know, jaw-dropping and beautiful when you like they drop you into this world and you look around you and you see like what you think is like a skybox, and it looks like painted art, and there's like a giant ugly looking craggly mountain in the distance, and I'm like, this looks beautiful. And then you don't really realize it when you start playing the game, but you go to the top of that mountain eventually, and the way they hide all that shit, and like you can't necessarily get there until you like figure it out, but there's like nothing, there's no guidance or anything, it's just like good luck to you. It's so crazy.
Did you see, I think they released a new DLC for Fallout 4?
Really?
I think so.
Why?
And this, I don't know. People have been playing Fallout like crazy recently.
Oh, that's right.
And this guy just hit over 3,000 hours of gameplay. 3,000 fucking hours. And like he discovered something, after 3,000 hours, you think you're done. And he apparently discovered something like randomly by completing the most like minute mission ever. And just kind of like unlock this whole big ass thing, like just from playing so much. Like I couldn't imagine putting 3,000 hours into a fucking video game, of any video game.
I shouldn't even tell you this. I'm gonna reveal it anyway. I have like over 1,500 hours in Dota 2. I don't know what that says about me, but
Still, he has twice as much in Fallout.
yeah, this is like over the course
I
of
put in
years and
like,
years.
I'll say this, I put in like 20 hours, 25 hours into Fallout 4 more recently, and I'm done. Like, I just don't want to play it anymore.
I don't like that game.
It's all the same. Like,
Yeah, it's all the same.
it all just becomes the same. I never even touched a regular mission. Like, I never progressed in the story at all. I put in like 25 hours on fucking side quests, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done.
Well, the side quests are like the better part of that game. I don't like the main story in that game. It's
I've never
not
beat
good.
it. Because even the first time, like when it came out initially, I put in probably 30 to 50 hours in that game, and I never touched the main story. I
Well,
never got
much
out of
like
the second city that you get to.
yeah, like much like Elden Ring, you could just go in any direction. You don't. It doesn't. I mean, in Fallout, they kind of try to guide you, but they're not making you go there. You could do whatever you want.
Oh, dude, I was running out into parts of like parts of the wasteland that you should not be in. Like,
Yeah,
but I had
high level.
I was like looking at things, and I got such like strong weapons that I was killing death claws in like 6 shots. So I'm like, oh, I don't
Hell
care
yeah.
about anything. I'm just gonna like run around. But that takes away kind of the fun, right? Like it's not hard anymore.
Yeah, it does.
And then
Yeah, Elden Ring is so fucking hard.
I started playing
Oh, yeah.
Chrono Cross. Shit's on Game Pass.
What?
It was like the sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I know. It's on Game Pass?
It was, yeah. It might still be. I started playing
would
it. It's not
like to play
remastered or
that.
anything. And I just was like, I don't know if I can do this. It's like it's too
hard to
old
go
school.
back.
Yeah, it's because it's not like the graphics are any better or anything like that. So it's kind of like it's really hard to like stay interested in playing it.
My brother plays Chrono Trigger like once a year. He plays through that game.
It was a good game.
Yeah, he speaks very highly of it.
It was a good game. And then
Chrono Cross, I don't know.
I also got Game Pass had like a bunch of shit. Final Fantasy 9. That's the one where they like took a step back on the graphics and like made it.
Oh, they made it more cartoony.
Yeah. Instead of being like modern graphics, they kind of like took a step back.
Well, one of the characters is a little monkey boy with a tail, so there's that.
I think it's the main character.
And there's like a Moogle. What is that thing? Dee?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, me and my brother again. We're Final Fantasy VIII boys, so that's kind of where we.
Did you like the 7 remake?
Yeah,
I actually did.
Well, here's the problem. I never beat it.
Like it just becomes every other hack and slash game, and I just could not. I don't know. I didn't like it. I couldn't tolerate it.
Well, you eventually unlock the other characters like Barrett and stuff, and you could use them, but I didn't find that to be like any better. And honestly, it's just kind of boring because it's kind of linear, and I think they fixed that in the second one, or Final Fantasy Rebirth or whatever.
Yeah,
but
honestly, they also did away with like one of the big storylines where Aerith gets killed, and like they did away with that part.
May I spoil something for you?
Yes,
then?
because I'm not going to play it because I was so.
Okay, the second they go into it's a multiverse game. So
good.
So
they ruin it.
In the remake, yeah, she's supposed to live, and you're like, whoa, this is a crazy take. But in the sequel, they reveal that she does sometimes die in other universes, and sometimes she lives.
So they marveled it. Great, that makes it worse. What is this?
That's where
is
you
this
go.
Walt Disney presents Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, multiverses are just. I don't think we're ever going to get away from them anytime soon because IP is everything, and if you could jam as much of it into the fucking product as possible.
So, on Apple TV, I watched a TV show called Dark Matter with Joel Edgerton in it.
Who I just watched today. Wrote and directed The Gift.
Nice. It also had this one guy. I think he used to be on like Boys in the Hall or like one of them like comedy sketch shows, but then became more of a serious actor. And do you remember the chick from the movie Predators, the one with Adrian Brody?
I like that movie, and no, I do not remember.
She was like a Spanish chick.
I'll look it up right now.
She's one of the main protagonists. She's also in it, and the show honestly was like really good. So Joel Egerton is a science teacher in like Chicago or some shit like that, and he gets kind of taken captive and put in this giant box. Well, turns out somebody else built this box, which is a multiverse, and the box, like when you're locked in it, like expands out, and you open different doors, and it puts you in like a different multiverse.
Okay, none
But
of that
it's
makes any
kind of
sense. Wow.
based off of like how your brain is thinking at that time. So like if you think bad thoughts, you get like a bad multiverse or something like that, right? Um, I recommend it. It was a good show. Did not end well, I will say.
Ooh.
The ending just does not fucking stick the landing for sure. But up to that point, it was like pretty good. And then it was like the last episode or two, you kind of see where it's going, and you're like, oh, come on. But like the buildup was so good.
Mm. Alice Braga
Mm,
is who
sure.
the lady is. Also, Jennifer Connelly's in that. I watched a movie with her called Bad Behavior a couple days ago. Um, it was okay.
And then me and my wife are watching Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay.
It's not bad. He takes a lot of L's in it for sure. Like there's every episode he takes like there's like one really big fuck you moment to Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
Isn't
It's
that a remake?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, it's based on the book, which was it's based
It
on
is
a book.
based on a book, yeah.
Yeah.
Look up the cast because it's not just Jake Gyllenhaal that's good. The the actor who plays the prosecutor prosecuting him is really good. He's a little weird in this, like, and I don't like the hair that they gave him in it for sure, but
Oh,
he's pretty
Ruth
good.
Nega's in it. She's great.
Um,
Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Camp. I don't know if I'm seeing the person that you're referring to. There's no other big names here.
um, there's another guy. Did you see? What's the chess TV show that was on with Anya Taylor-Joy?
The Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Do you remember the guy that played the janitor that like taught her to play chess?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's in it.
Oh, okay.
I actually really like him. I don't know his name. I will say I don't know his name, but he's actually a really good actor, and he's also in this as well.
It
He's
might be this Bill Camp guy.
maybe he plays the
Yeah, it's him.
defending attorney.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of show, I've been watching. I started watching the show called Evil, which is getting really popular now.
Oh yeah, it's on its last
Um,
season, I think.
it was canceled. I think it went over to Netflix. And I think they'll probably give it another season because it's starting to get a second wind because people like me are watching it now. But I also finished The Bear season 3,
So did I.
and
Yeah.
thumbs down. Ooh.
Ugh, they just I don't know. It used to be a cooking kind of show, and now it's just not that. Like
It's just not that. I don't know
I
why.
I know what one of the things you said was like they're trying to give you like history on all these characters, and I actually said the same thing to my wife. I was like, they're just kind of like taking you back, where like one episode was devoted to X character and so on and so forth, and like kind of didn't make sense.
I don't care. Like
Yeah, it just
they
kind of
try to
didn't
make
make
you care,
sense.
but like okay, this woman had a really bad day. The whole episode is about her having like a bad time. And I'm like I really don't care about her bad time because she works at the restaurant. I care about the story going forward because I care about the restaurant.
Right.
Um so yeah, I think they blew it by trying to go back. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
I don't know, like the whole uh episode where like the girl's giving birth to, like
That
it
one was
just took
also bad.
place in basically like one room for 90% of the episode. And don't get me wrong, uh jamie uh
Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis was like pretty good. I give her full credit. I think in
Great
those
actress.
scenes she was like pretty good, and she is a good actress, so can't like mince words here, but the episode itself was like kind of unnecessary.
I would say most of it was unnecessary. And then there was
I do like how he attacked Joel McHale though in the episode. I love Joel McHale.
I do too.
I don't particularly think he's a great actor, but I do love Joel McHale.
He plays such a good dick on that
Yeah,
in
he
that
does.
episode. Oh,
I don't know if you
he's
ever
such a
saw. He was
prick.
in a movie called "Deliver Us from Evil" with with
Yeah,
Eric Bana.
yeah, I've seen that.
I saw it in theaters.
I don't
And
remember anything
in
about it.
hindsight, it actually wasn't that horrible of a movie, but it was just definitely B level like dog shit.
Yeah,
But
we've
he
gotten way
again,
worse.
he's a dick in it. Like he plays a good dickhead. He always did when he was on like Talk Soup and shit like that. He was such a fucking asshole, and it
Hmm.
just fits him.
Yeah, same thing on Community. He was just like a really cocky
Yeah, I never
guy.
fully got into that show, but you're right. Like he was just like a cocky kind of asshole.
Yeah, I wasn't really into that show either, but I only watched. I shouldn't even admit this. There were two very attractive actresses on that show that made it really easy to watch. We'll put it that way. Um, yeah, so I think the Bear just fucked up, and I couldn't care less anymore, honestly, because what are they gonna do now? What's gonna be the next storyline? Is it like he's gonna go bankrupt? I mean,
Right.
there's nowhere to go.
Right. And they kind of ended up doing the same thing. They painted into a corner in Jeremy Allen White was in shit, what's it slipping my mind?
Shameless.
And they ended up doing the same thing with like his character. They kind of like painted him into a corner at some point. And he was actually one of the better characters on that show.
I agree.
And they ended up kind of painting him into this corner, and then his storyline just fell apart. Because he like went to rehab and then ended up like having a kid, and it just kind of like focused along that. And it's like, okay, well, my girlfriend's kind of rich. I don't have any money. There's our dynamic, and then we have a kid, and it's like we're trying to work through that dynamic, but it just didn't. I don't know. The last couple seasons of Shameless just weren't really that good. And the Bear, I don't think it has anything to do with Jeremy Allen White.
Not at all.
I think he's actually really good.
Brilliant.
He was great in Iron Claw. I think he's going to be typecast though. 100%.
Well, see, I'm glad you said that. Because this is what I was going to say was that I think the Bear is almost beneath him because he has so much more potential, and it comes out so much more in Iron Claw.
It does.
And it's like, dude, just make movies. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think he took the Bear at first because it was good for him.
It was a great
and then
its
he
first
got
season's
the Iron
great.
Claw, and the Iron Claw was really good. The thing is that the Bear is starting to see more celebrity attention. Josh Hartnett appears in this season, and I don't care if I'm spoiling shit for people.
This.
Okay, Josh Hartnett appears in this season. Obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. What's his face from Better Call Saul was in it. John Barenthal was in it. Like, and I'm not talking just this particular season. I'm talking since the beginning. But if you look at the very first season, there wasn't really anybody super famous in it. John Barenthal might have had some flashes in it and stuff. Then season 2, they go in and they get Jamie Lee Curtis. They get the guy from Better Call Saul. Now they added Joel McHale and Josh Hartnett was in this, and then all of those chefs when he's like having dinner are all celebrity chefs. Like everybody knows who they are.
You could tell because they weren't really delivering their lines very well.
Right. Like, I would actually be interested to see if the stories that they're telling when they're all sitting around the table are actually real for them or not.
I hated that, by the way.
It was a waste of an episode.
It really, I wasted my time. The fucking, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, I could go back in time and just say, you know what? Just skip it. Just be done with it.
Right.
Move on.
But how good is fucking Will Poulter in that?
Oh, he's the other actor that's like, man, what are you doing on this show? Like, you shouldn't be making
good, dude.
What are you making Marvel movies for? Like, I don't know, you didn't see Guardians of the Galaxy, but he plays a character in it.
Yeah, he's
a gold man.
I put him in a similar vein as shit, what's his name? He was just in Civil War. Jesse Plemons. I actually put him in like a similar vein as Jesse Plemons. But I don't think he's had the movies to like really pull him out of that. Like, obviously he was in We Are the Millers, which was fucking hilarious, and he was great in it. You kind of forget he's British at all,
Mm-hmm.
but then he goes and does the Maze Runner movies. I don't know if you saw those, which the
I
first
like
one
the
was
first
actually
Maze Runner.
incredible,
Yeah,
but the other two I think they made were
I
like
didn't see them.
whatever. But he was in them, and it wasn't for lack of him being good in them. He's actually a very good young actor, and they need to
Allow
put
me
him
to
in more
also,
shit that's not Marvel dog shit.
yeah, or the bear. Like, don't do that. Like, okay, he was, by the way, one of the better parts of the Revenant.
Oh
He's
yeah,
he's
fuck!
not
I
in there for
forgot he
very
was in
long,
that.
but
Right,
yeah, he's really good. And he
that
was
movie
also in
was supposed to
Midsummer.
be about Leonardo DiCaprio, and it quickly became about Tom Hardy. So,
Actually,
and Domhnall Gleeson,
yeah, and Domhnall
he
Gleeson.
was
Which, by the
really
way,
good.
kind of forget that time because it was a little weird. But Domhnall Gleeson is in that movie, and then he's in Star Wars like right after that. And so it's like these guys get these big, nice, cool roles, and then they get like sucked up by Disney, and it's just like fuck. Like I
This is
make
where
anything else.
I'll say Tom Hardy minus the Venom movies has done a pretty good job of picking films out, like, for his career. And this actually kind of brings us back to Joel Edgerton, because he was in that movie Warrior with Joel Edgerton, which was about them being brothers and doing like MMA, and they end up fighting each other. Um, and that was pretty good. Like, I enjoyed that movie, as Nick Nolte in it as well. I enjoyed that a lot, and I think that Tom Hardy has picked some bad shit, but for the most part has had like a really good career. Joel Edgerton, same. I think Will Poulter needs to get out there more and give us like some really good performances in other things. Like, get away from Marvel and get away from the bear.
I have good news for you. He is making a movie right now called Warfare, directed by Alex Garland.
Ooh. Is there a synopsis?
Da, 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 da. Not seeing much here. It might be too soon. Yeah, there's not. It's just a war movie, it says. So we
I'm
might be getting some Will
good.
Poulter action.
I'm intrigued by that. I actually do
Yeah.
think he's a really good actor. So let's push that out there. Like, he just needs to stay away from Marvel. He had his little stint in Marvel. Stay away from that. I think he'll probably get away from the bear. To like what you said, I think on Facebook, it's got to be coming to an end. I don't see
Yeah.
much more than a season. Maybe they could stretch it out to a fifth season.
Well, I want to toot my own horn and say that I observed this and I felt proud about this observation. It was in my opinion that by the end of that season, I found that they tried to create lore, but they tried to do it the wrong way because they tried to go back and they should have gone forward, and they didn't do that, and I think they fucked up. Also, Will Poulter's in a movie with Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega coming up too.
Paul Rudd is. I'm indifferent. I liked
So am
him.
I.
I liked him in certain movies. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I thought he was real funny. He was like the guy
Yeah,
that was like trying to teach him surfing. I thought he was funny in that. I don't think he can lead a movie, so
you're right.
like Ant-Man, obviously not a big fan. But when he was in I Love You, Man, I thought
Yeah,
that movie was pretty fucking
I
funny.
like that movie. It's
Yeah,
great.
and obviously I think he was in what, Knocked Up, but then they tried This Is 40, which was like one of it.
I like that movie a
Do
lot. I
you?
shouldn't probably. Yeah,
I
I don't know
I'm
why.
I don't hate Paul Rudd. I don't hate
I mean, he
him.
was in like Anchorman. He was in 40 Year
Sure,
Old Virgin. I'm trying to go back to. I'm trying to remember what was the old movie, like way old at this point.
he has no range. Like, let's not.
He has no
They put
range.
him in Ant-Man as to try and kind of be like a Deadpool-esque,
Clueless.
character,
He was in
and
Clueless.
that's just not. I don't know. He's not that guy. Like,
Also,
he's a comedic relief. He's not that funny.
yeah. Have you ever seen Wet Hot American Summer?
I have not, but I've heard about it.
Fucking man, that movie and that show that's on Netflix is fucking hilarious. It
Really?
is wild shit. Yeah, he's in that, and it's boy oh boy. Yeah.
We started watching a show on Hulu last night. I fell asleep, but I think it was called We Were the Lucky Ones. And it was about Jews in Poland and trying to
Yeah.
it was like a family in Poland that got separated, and after the Holocaust, they try to like come back together. We started watching that. I fell asleep. I was tired. And I didn't find it
Oh, it's got Joey
particularly
King.
interesting. Yeah, who was in The Conjuring. So it's funny you brought that up because I was like, that girl looks really familiar. Because we had watched some rom-com with her in it, and Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron, A Family Affair, I think it was called. It just recently came out. And I was like, what is this girl in? And she was in The Conjuring. She was one of the
Oh.
kids in The Conjuring.
Yeah, she's also she was in Bullet Train. She pops up, and I was like, "Who is this girl?"
But yeah,
The Brad
she's
Pitt
apparently
movie.
been in quite a few things, it seems.
She has
She was in
a
that
lot of
the
stuff that I'm never going to
movie The
see.
Kissing Booth, which I think was a Netflix original, but now there's like 3 of them.
And she was in Crazy Stupid Love.
Which
Very
I
good
actually
movie.
like that movie.
Me too. All right. It's been an hour and a half now. Let's call it.
Gets away from you.
It does a little bit. If you bring up the movie title, I'll pull up everything on
See?
it. Pull it up, Jamie. Yeah, so I guess there's not really anything else going on because sports are over now. There's no more sports.
Except baseball. Who cares?
Nobody. People go to baseball games because they just want to do something, I guess.
A meme I shared a couple years ago popped up on Facebook, and it was like, you know why they call baseball the American pastime? Because it passes time between hockey seasons.
It's true, though. You're right. It's true. Like, it's the lowest stakes game there is, I think, because there's just nothing going on.
So we'll close this off with, I have to sit down with you and go over the fantasy hockey league that you're about to join, because it is crazy intense. So
Yeah,
for a little context, I won a week in fantasy hockey because for the last day or weekend at least of games, I had 2 categories I absolutely needed to win. I spent 3 hours combing through players to pick up one player. I had 1 ad remaining for the week. I spent 3 hours combing through players over 2 statistical categories to win that week, and I did. But I spent 3 hours combing through statistics and players.
you know what? That's really not helping me feel better about it because I already have 2 fantasy football leagues I'm in, and I spend way too much time in those as it is.
Those up.
What do I have going on?
I think it'll actually make you way more like interested in hockey from a statistical perspective.
Yeah, I'll get to memorize the players' names better too.
And we have like you get to carry 3 minor league players on your team. So you have to also be focusing on guys that are about to come into the league. It's not just in the league.
You kill me.
And there's a salary cap, so it's gonna be tough. Right. I think you can do it.
I could do it. Trust me. I'll dedicate myself to it.
You could just mirror my spreadsheet.
Okay. It's starting to get a little hotter in here now. Summertime. All right. We'll wrap it up then.
All right, buddy. Catch you later.
Have a good week. Bye.
Later.